Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where you're from. We are worldwide today, and I'd like to thank you for attending our webinar. There are a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to go over before we get started. My name is Eileen Goldberg. I will be your moderator for today's webinar. 360 job site photos for lean construction, presented by OpenSpace and Turner. Again, the housekeeping items I'd like to go over, you'll see the long skinny box on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a red arrow to the left of that box. That's the minimization and maximization arrow. Please feel free to use that throughout the presentation so you can view the presentation more closely. At the bottom of that box, you'll see the questions box. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in that box. They'll be answered at the end. If you have a question about a particular slide, please be sure to reference that slide so that we can make sure we get your question to the particular person that's giving the presentation at that time. We'll also be doing a quick plus delta at the end of the presentation. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term, pluses are things you thought added value to the presentation, and deltas are things you think we should change so that we can add more value to the presentation. In the spirit of continuous improvement and lean, we absolutely want your feedback. So be sure to be thinking about that as we go through the presentation. Again, just a little recap. My name is Eileen Goldberg. I'll be your moderator. The long skinny box on the right-hand side of your screen, minimization and maximization arrow, questions box at the bottom. Be sure to put those questions in there and that feedback as those plus deltas. We are recording this presentation, and a copy of the recording and Tom, the slide deck.
Yes, we can share the slide deck as well.
Fantastic. We'll be up on our Congress webpage. When you click on the OpenSpace logo, as soon as it has a red asterisk to the left of it, you'll be able to see the recording and the slide deck. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Felice from OpenSpace. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Eileen. I'm really excited to be here. You know, LCI is, I've been a member of for better part of 10, 15 years, actually. And I'm just, it's always exciting to present and talk about how, you know, we're working on lean projects. And I actually have Chris Davis here with me today. For those of you that don't know me, you know, quick little background on myself. I actually studied lean in college in the industrial manufacturing setting. And then when I got out of school after my master's in construction, actually same program that Greg Howell went to just you know 30 years later. I was fortunate enough to be on a few lean projects, actually with Greg himself, a prison receivership project up in Sacramento, and then eventually I went on to a Bolt project with Sutter Health, where we were building an $800 million hospital on an IPD project. So I've just been really passionate about lean and lean construction, and over the last decade since working on site, I've actually worked at DPR, where we spun out a company called Our Plan that was acquired by Autodesk. It's a lean construction planning tool in the cloud for the sticky note planning. And since then, I've been really on the context side, applying lean principles and trying to advocate for technology so we can streamline processes. So that's my background. I'm a lean zealot, so to speak. Used to be a lean manager like my partner here, Chris Davis, and I'll let him introduce himself real quickly before we kind of get into the slides.
Yeah, good morning. Just a technical note: we had problems syncing audio and visual, so I cut my camera. But I'm a lean zealot as well, and my time with lean goes all the way back to 1997. I was working on Bass Performing Arts Hall in Fort Worth. And I was working for a company called Lembeck Construction. Leo Lembeck III was out at Stanford, Tom's alma mater, getting his MBA, and he sent this facsimile back to the guy I was working for that said, hey, there's this new lean construction thing. We need to get smart on it. And so that's the first time I'd heard of it. I bookmarked it. And then some years later, I was working for Austin Commercial, and I had my Greg Howell moment. We were trying to think of improvements we could make in our safety efforts. And so me and another guy were thinking lean. So I called Greg Howell, had a nice 45-minute conversation with him on lean and safety and the intersection of the two. And he said, I don't know what it is, but there's a hockey stick improvement in safety when you do last planner and you do lean. So I've been thinking about lean for a lot of years, and finally get to practice it full time out here at the Denver airport. Back to you, Tom.
Yeah. So just quickly, what we're going to be reviewing today, and it's not going to take, the full 90 minutes. So we're leaving a lot of time for questions. So feel free, again, like Eileen said, to put them in the chat so we can bookmark them and really have this be a conversation. But we're going to talk today about how 360 Photo really addresses all 8 wastes. We're going to give examples of 6 different types of waste that it addresses. And then Chris is mostly going to talk about examples from the Denver airport and the SoFi Stadium where they used 360 technology on those job sites and how they implemented it and the best practice they followed on process. And then, we're going to talk, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how 360 photos really help in the production planning process and the last planner system, with reliable promising and sequencing of trades. And then, I'm going to end with kind of where we see the future of 360 technology and really the power of AI in helping lean projects and teams. So I'm really excited about this agenda. It's going to be packed with a lot of great information, examples from the field, and I think you guys are going to get a ton of value out of it. So with that, I will just jump right into it. And I'll pass it off to Chris to kind of talk about the evolution of photography on job sites.
So it's funny to me that we start with the old way was smartphones, but in fact that was the old way. And probably like a lot of you, I remember if I needed to go find a picture to document something, to establish something, it was sorting through hundreds of pictures in folders on desktop or somewhere, and it's just a really painful process. And so I came across these quotes that you see at the bottom of this slide here from Turner Folk as I was researching what can we do that's better. And there's kind of 2 points. Are we going to get what we need 6 months from now when we really don't know what we need 6 months from now? And if I got to go try to retrieve that, am I going to have to sort through 100 garbage photos to find what I really need? And so we have evolved from smartphone and folder and the treasure hunt through manual 360 photos, which I didn't even partake in, to this current automated 360 video, which is a quantum leap forward as far as ease of capture and ease of retrieving the information you need.
Awesome. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about like the process of what do I mean by automated 360 video. So basically what it is you can see the guy on the screen here. He's just, pressing start on his camera, indicating his location on the floor plan. And what automated 360 photo technology allows you to do is while you're walking, the superintendent, project engineer, they're not really doing anything else other than walking the job like they normally would. But now AI is able to automatically map the location of that person to the floor plan using a lot of robotics that are in like self-driving cars where there's no GPS. So it's using like SLAM technology and proprietary algorithms to basically allow for you to create this Google Street View for your project. And so that, people, as you can see on the screen here, they can come inside the job site, again, using technology to see behind the walls, to see the progress change over time, to create just better communication and coordination with the superintendents or the subcontractors that are trade partners that are working in the field. But this 360 video technology really allows every stakeholder to walk around the job, see exactly what's going on. You can, as you can see here, pin issues right from the field, and it will automatically map it to the floor plan. It's basically keeping all of this information that, like Chris was saying, normally you had to go on a treasure hunt through a folder, completely visible, transparent, automatically pinned to the floor plan for you, so that if you're the architect back in the office, you can see exactly what's going on the job site. You can collaborate with the team, integrate with the BIM as well. There's just a lot of exciting things that 360 technology is bringing to the market to kind of create that better level of transparency. And yeah, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about why this is so important, this
Yes.
automatic pinning?
Yeah, so here is the point that I want to get you to get from this visual, and that is that green path there. You can drop in anywhere and quickly find out whether you can see the thing that you want to see. And so I'm a baby boomer, and I'm telling you, our generation is not known as the most tech savvy generation of all the generations that are currently roaming this earth. But I can use this. It's really easy. And so kind of 2 points here. One is that you'll quickly and easily drop into the thing that you want to see. And because it's 360 capture, you're more likely to be able to see what you want to see. And so you think about it, when that person is out there walking, getting this capture, they don't know what the issue is. And so with 360 capture, you're getting everything, or you're most likely getting everything that you want to see.
Awesome. Yeah, and just to kind of add to that point, and feel free to jump in here, Chris, as well. But I think what 360 photo enables teams to do, and just like any sort of technology integration, I've worked now across 5 different contact companies, and I know that some technologies, they don't really get adoption in the field because they're not easy, right? It's not simple. I mean, the workers in the field, the guys that are actually performing the value-added activities, they are not going to be, photographers. They're not going to fiddle around with technology. You got to make it simple, and you got to make it fast, and you got to make it easy. And I think that's what, automated 360 photo technology allows everyone in the field and in the office, just the entire team, to do. So I think that's what I just wanted to emphasize, not just with 360 technology, but any sort of technology integration. It's all, we've all seen those 3 circles of people, process, and technology. And with any sort of implementation, and Chris is going to talk about this later, you got to really make it a process that integrates those 3 aspects. And I think this all comes down to the fact in why 360 technology. Oh, sorry. Are you there, Chris? I was gonna.
Yeah. I just want to make.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, let me make part of that point right now.
Yeah.
Sure. With the simple piece, cadence is key to making this work, right? You have to consistently get captures so that you have, again, that thing that you need 6 months from now, that visual, that capture. And so one of the things that I use to the people that I asked to go get the capture is, it's like a Zen walk. It's so simple to get, and now you just walk the job. And so it's actually, people like doing it because they just get to get away from their desk for an hour or so and go walk the job. And so that simplicity factor makes it sustainable, makes the cadence piece of this doable. So
great, thanks for adding that.
Back to you, Tom.
Yeah. And sorry, and Chris, I know that you're out on the job site there at the Denver airport, so we can hear you okay, but at some points it might get a little choppy. But anyway, so yeah, I think the big thing with all of this, and with any sort of reality capture in general, especially with 360 technology, because it is like an immersive experience now, and we're seeing this with the rise of AR and VR, and and especially with the rise of COVID. I mean, it's almost accelerated the industry by 10 years, because people now are forced to adopt 360 technology because they physically can't get to the job site. So the only way that they can collaborate is being able to, visit the job site remotely using systems, that allow that to take place. And so, and I think the big thing with, and we always hear about this with photos, is that, pictures worth 1,000 words. But when you have 360 virtual tours of a job site, that's really what creates this single shared vision of what is there, what got done, what didn't get done. So you don't have that finger pointing, so you don't have that rework or waste. And really what we're going to talk about, over the next little bit, is some examples of how 360 technology have really able to reduce or eliminate a lot of these wastes that we know all too well. And one thing I want to note about the 8 wastes, and I don't need to lecture the team on the call here and any LCI member. I think we're all, we have this ingrained into our head, these different 8 wastes. But that 360 technology kind of overlaps, and there's a lot of waste that when you're solving the transportation problem of not being able to visit the job site, you're actually reducing motion, and you're avoiding a lot of over processing and overproduction. So these examples, even though we're going to highlight one type of waste, just want you to notice that it kind of, it goes across all of them. So it's got that multiplier effect in a way when your team start to engage and really use 360 technology. So I'm going to pass it over to Chris, and I think he's going to walk through some really poignant examples of how they've been using this, on the various job sites at Turner, who's a pretty forward-thinking lean contractor. So go ahead, Chris.
Yep. And I would just add, the sort of the braided nature of these wastes that you're attacking when you use this platform. And what really struck me as we were kind of working through this presentation is that weighting is probably the biggest thing that this eliminates. And we'll see in some of my examples that I give here today that it really just cuts through the clutter and keeps the weighting that typically happens on a project, because we don't have the information, we don't have consensus on what is going on. This really cuts through a lot of that. So this first example here, transportation, and when I was doing this research, I was talking with the general superintendent out at the LA Rams stadium project, and what she did was there's a split screen function where you can put the BIM model up against the current capture or the current reality. So she'd have area superintendent go walk the job, and then in this case, she was showing me they needed to punch the locker rooms. And so she showed the area superintendent, look, when you get the locker rooms looking like the model here on the right, then I'll have a sense that we're ready to punch, but we're not ready to punch yet. And so she can do that from her desk. And general superintendent is generally the critical node for that project moving forward. She's not wasting time going out there seeing for herself. She has somebody else do that work for her. All right, next.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's another example on, and this is on our project, the owner's rep for the low voltage on this project. If you think about low voltage on an airport, that's card readers, cameras, the flight information display system. So a pretty critical piece of an airport project. That owner loves this capability, and so I get feedback all the time from this guy saying, "Hey, thanks for the captures. This really lets me stay plugged into what's going on." And just so you know, on this project, like a lot of airport projects, there's an air side and a land side, and so we actually office, and most of the DEN folk office not on the project itself. So it's typically like a 15-minute, half-hour bus ride to get to the project. So we can status this thing from our desk, and I get requests all the time from this guy to add more people to the 360 capture platform so that they can do the same thing that he's doing. Next.
Oh yeah.
The architect offices in Kansas City and Los. Yep. So this is another example of access remotely, particularly when consultants or owners or others aren't on the job site. And again, particularly in this COVID environment, being able to access remotely is critical to sharing information and sharing status of project. So, I think on our Concourse B project, like 50, 60, 70 members. Here we have 216. Next.
Yeah, and Chris, are you connected to the your phone, or is it through the computer audio?
It's through the computer audio. And what are you hearing from me?
Oh, it's just a little bit choppy. That's all. But we're hearing like 90% of what you're saying.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep pressing on here.
Okay.
Inventory is another example of waste that we all are interested in and we all struggle with on a typical project. And so again, an example that came from the Ram Stadium, the general superintendent had people walk around and do those field note captures of where all of her temporary heaters were, portable heaters. So she could see in a moment from her desk where all of her assets were. There's an example in our project here where we had lift charging stations that were provided by the electrical contractor. And so we spent weeks and months haggling about how many had they actually furnished to us because they're scattered all over, this big, huge concourse project. So one day, me and another guy just went out and did our captures and put field notes on every single lift station that we came across. So then I was able to create this map and show the electrician, look, in the basement, there's only 9 stations in place, you owe us 12. And so with that single day's act, we were able to achieve consensus and all the haggling went away and we were able to move forward.
Awesome. Yeah. And just another quick example from that, another job that I was a part of, what we use 360 technology. There you can notice where, in this particular project, the drywall trade was stacking a bunch of their drywall. It was a multi-story, 45-story, condo high rise. And because they had captured the site in 360 technology, and actually a lot of the technology inside AI now, you can start to identify objects. And so using that technology, you're able to actually quickly identify where that stacking of the drywall is. And it actually helped the drywall contractor realize that when they looked at the schedule and the stacking of their drywall, that they didn't need, they could remove some of that inventory from the field. So it created a more just-in-time delivery, coordination of that work. So just when you see it, then that's half the battle. Then you can address the issue. Sometimes a lot of this inventory is hidden, but really when you have 360 technology, it allows all the team members and all of that waste to almost become visible. So I'll move along to the next example that Chris has on his project.
Yeah, so this is another kind of a boomer story and story about the epiphany of the ease of use and the comprehensiveness of this thing. So we needed to update our master schedule, and general superintendent, boomer like me, has 4 or 5 superintendents and schedulers sequestered in an office up here landside, trying to get this master schedule updated. At some point, he realizes that he can use OpenSpace to status what has actually been put in place. And he just lights up and found it a lot easier to get through the rest of this master update.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I think another
right,
example.
So to the next slide. Yep. Yep. So this to me is a great one because we all sit in a lot of meetings, and it's a pretty common occurrence in a meeting that we don't really know the status of something, and so somebody says, well, I'll dig into that and I'll get back to you, and nobody to the next meeting. So this was an example again with the low voltage owner's rep in the meeting and sort of insisting that we have OpenSpace at our fingertips to look and see. There's a question about some electrical conduit that was broken and needed to be fixed under conduit, and everybody who's sitting there, there was about a half a dozen different opinions about what. So we brought it up OpenSpace, was able to see right here in this picture you see here that the thing was fixed and backfilled. So we walked out of that meeting with consensus on what the current status was. Good, next slide.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll take this one, Chris. And feel free to jump in. You're still a little bit delayed, but we'll work through it. The defect slide, I mean, this one is actually, you know, in all my years in lean, like rework and defects, this is the one that killed me most, because it's like, you know, these trades, they really take pride in their work, and they hate having to tear things out or having to redo you know, whether it's you know, backing or, you know, concrete, and really with 360 technology and the ability to kind of almost see what's behind the walls, what's beneath the concrete. A quick example, it was actually from a bolt project, one of the foremen that was using 360 technology on some prefabricated systems. They had captured, and I guess there wasn't proper backing in the wall, and instead of having to go back through and find out where the backing was or wasn't, they could refer to these 360 photos and be able to, you know, go and immediately identify the areas where they wanted, so that you're not having to rip out the entire system. And a similar example on a change order for a project, they you know, they were able to save a $50,000 change order just because they had that ability to see behind the walls, because they had captured it in 360. Because oftentimes it's the, you know, it's the photo that you don't take, right? And with automated 360 technology, you're basically ensuring that you're capturing everything on the project, right? Because it's snapping a photo every half a second wherever you're walking. So you're ensuring a complete, you know, documentation of your job site from start to finish, and you're not having to rely on, you know, if you took that photo above the ceiling or behind the wall, you know it's going to be there, and you can easily go find it on the floor plan, go back to that date and see, you know, hey, is there backing there? Hey, is the PT cable going to be in the way? We have to core drill here. And so that really eliminates a lot of guesswork, and, you know, moves things along, so there's not as much rework and defects. And, you know, I have another quick example from a Suffolk project down in Miami. It was a large luxury hotel, and they were behind schedule. I heard this from a superintendent that was on the job, and it was because the glazing trade was the critical path that was basically holding up a punch list for that glazing trade. So they were actually able to use 360 technologies, much in the similar way that Chris was talking about how they used it to identify those lift stations, charging stations. They were actually able to go back and virtually punch list, you know, much like the SoFi Stadium Chris example was saying, but using this functionality called field notes, go back and punch list all the items where the glazing contractor was deficient, and be able to get that report out to them, so that they can quickly ameliorate the problems and you know, move the schedule along. And that project said that because of that one issue, they saved 2 weeks in the schedule. So just another example of how, you know, getting that information quickly, again, not having to wait on it, being able to identify those issues so that you can address schedule and keep the project running smoothly, I think are great examples.
Good. Apologize for the audio delay. I guess the meeting from my side here. I wish my meeting technology was as good as my 360 form capture technology. Anyway, yeah, I just want to tack on to the previous example of defects. And we had an instance on our Concourse B project where drywall guy said, yeah, no, we already had the ceiling up, and we were kind of, everybody was entrenched in their positions. We were able to go back, use the 360 capture to show no, that was not in fact the case. And so you know, they apologized, and the dispute was resolved, and we moved forward. So again, it's kind of that, you know, that waiting and haggling and those kind of wastes. This cuts through the chase a lot of times and puts those to bed. So waste number 5, human talent. This is my favorite waste. This is where I love to release people's potential. And so you combine that with this example I'm going to talk about here. We are probably approaching a project out here between the various things we're doing at Denver Airport. Turner is is starting now a $2 billion project at San Diego Airport Lindbergh Field. And so we connected with those guys and wanted to share some of the things that we'd learned because the other one of my favorite things is pre-construction, and just the idea that a unit's worth of effort in pre-construction is worth 3 units of effort once you get going and get in construction. So we wanted to really share some we'd learned here with those guys. We're starting a project of similar sort of a scope as ours, similar sort of design. So as we're doing this, at first their pre-construction director was skeptical. It's like, you know, why are you guys doing this? What can you do for us? We know what we're doing. And then in one of our sessions, we brought up OpenSpace, and he just, you know, fell in love with this idea that, and the picture here shows our roof, that some young engineer working in pre-con or young superintendent, project manager, could see what we were doing and what we had been through and kind of wake them up to what they were getting ready to do, what they were getting ready to bid and buy. And so just the idea that you can put a resource at their fingertips that they can access on their timing was a pretty powerful epiphany for the pre-construction staff on that San Diego airport. Next slide is a continuation of that story. And so one of the other things that we wanted to share with them was these passenger boarding bridges and the interface with the facade. And there's a couple of issues. One is you've got a panelized system, we do, and they will have a similar. And so the fit of that and coordinating the facade contractors work with these passenger boarding bridges and how they fit in. And then also the mechanical electric, how they come in underneath in our case, and probably in theirs as well. And so there's a question there: are you going to core, or are you going to coordinate ahead of time? And so when they saw this, the light bulb went off, and they understood that this is an issue that they're going to have to contend with. So pretty powerful leveraging of human talents in a place where it matters most before you get started. Next slide is actually talking again, an example here on this project. So our BIM guy, and this is an example that I just learned about last week. I was walking by his desk and I saw OpenSpace open on his right screen there. I said, hey, Adam, what are you doing with OpenSpace? He said, oh, I use it all the time. When I do my my digital scans, which are pretty intensive and give me lots of rich detail, rich information, I usually and often don't have everything that I need either. You know, so basically the 360 capture is filling in the gaps in time and space. So either I don't have the piece that I need to be looking at, or I don't have the point in time that I need to be looking at. And so he said, I probably use this thing 2 or 3 times a week to either resolve a dispute in the coordination work that I do, or to help fix a problem. So this really kind of points out, you know, my job in implementing the process is just to make sure that the tool is there. So routing cadence, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, and then let the end users figure out all the creative ways that they can use this tool to solve problems.
Yeah, and I wanted to add a quick example to that.
And next slide is actually that. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. There's a little bit of delay. I just wanted to add a little bit to that. You know, on another job with Swinnerton, real big zealot of 360 technology, and as a woman named Brianne Felix, and she actually uses 360 technology and the model for doing her constructability reviews. So, and similar to what I'm sure how this VDC manager manages and uses 360 technology. You know, they actually use this to understand, okay, well, is that pipe in the right place? What's missing, what's not missing, so that they could, you know, almost do like what was actually built versus what's there versus what's intended to be there. And it's just a great tool to, like Chris said, fill in the gaps and really solve problems. So again, avoiding a lot of rework, avoiding a lot of extra work on all parts, and just better facilitating communication. Go ahead, Chris, on the process part of how to actually make this happen or practical in the field.
Yep. So of course, continuous improvement is a pillar of lean and lean construction, and we always think about improving processes, but the reality, the sad reality is that a lot of our work really about establishing process and sustaining or maintaining processes. And so I was asked to develop this capability for our project that we had been at for some year. We've been chasing doing this, and so I immediately saw this as, oh, this is a change to the way we're doing business. This is going to be about establishing process, and so really it is right in my wheelhouse as a lean guy, as a lean manager. And so the key to making this work, if you are interested in using this platform, this technology, is routing cadence. And I heard that from any number of Turner folk and from the other people, that if you're going to make this work, you have to have a cadence, and the cadence for us is weekly. That sticks, because when you need that information down the road, you don't know what or when you're going to need it, but you have to have had it done. So having the discipline to cadence, and then having the discipline and the flexibility to adapt the route as the building changes, as rooms get built out. Now it's going to take more effort to get inside of those rooms and do those captures. And so I really try to stay focused on those two things to make this work, which is I have to make sure that we're getting routing cadence. If I do that, then Adam, the BIM guy, is going to use it for his purposes. John, the general superintendent, is going to see it there to be able to update the master schedule and so on. So establishing and maintaining process is key to making this work, and that is a lean thing in my mind.
Yeah, and I'll just continue on to that, and the point that I used to be in Chris's role on a job site, and implementing last planner on the job, and with the daily huddles to the weekly work planning to the constraint look aheads to doing pull plan sessions and milestone planning. And I'll tell you, just like anything, process is so important if you want something to really stick and ingrain it into the workflows of the people that are on the job site. And so, I wanted to talk a little bit about how 360 photos help with that production planning process, and in particular, really weave well into the last planner system, and how lean projects are planning work. And this is a screenshot of a weekly work plan from Chris's job. But I think when you can use 360 technology, and I wish when I was in the field on the Sutter job in Sacramento, where we were on an IPD project with all the trade partners and planning what got done, what didn't get done. I know that there's lean teams out there. Actually, another Turner team based out of based out of Chicago is using this with all of their trade partners on another IPD project, where they're actually bringing up OpenSpace, 360 technology, whether any sort of 360 technology on a screen. It's a cloud-based tool, so you can just bring it up in the meeting, and instead of having to go out to the job, say, hey, did that get done or did not get done, or solve a dispute, they can just immediately bring it up on the screen and check whether it did get done or not get done. And that is particularly helpful too in constraint look ahead. Maybe Chris, you can talk a little bit about that. I know you got a delay, but
yeah, I would say that we are not actually using this in our last planner yet, but I am patient, and I know that when I ingrain the tool and ingrain its value, that we will eventually come around to this. And so weekly work planning, it would be value. Make ready planning, I look to have OpenSpace open, or the 360 platform open, so that we can again see and cut through the chase and make clarity in these meetings.
And just a little bit on the sequencing of trades. I think it's all about, as we know, like making sure that you have that consistent flow on the job site, and that you're really reducing the buffer wherever you can. And I think what 360 technology allows the teams to do is really have that single source of truth. So what got done yesterday, what got done last week, what are we going to work on tomorrow? Especially, and I brought this up before, but I think it's worth emphasizing that in this kind of new way of collaborating with COVID, right? And people not being able to be co-located or be there on the job site, you need tools that will enable you to be on the job site without being on the job site. And so even the foreman or the superintendents, or the project managers, they got to be able to understand, like, hey, are we going to send our crews to this area, or is it going to be delayed? And if you have this ability to log in wherever you are and see exactly what is done yesterday, then it really eliminates a lot of that back and forth, or yo-yoing of crews, or having to create a bunch of buffer, and really creates more reliable promising and accountability. And I think that's the point I wanted to make on this slide as well, is that overall it just creates better flow on your job sites when you do have that single source of truth. And of course, nothing actually beats being at the job and being there in person and working hand in hand. But I think with COVID, it's created a lot of disruption, and good disruption in the industry, where as you guys all know, construction is pretty laggard when it comes to technology adoption. And an instance like COVID that's come along, where it forces people, hey, we got to work in a different way, very much the way that Lean was disruptive to the way people planned their work in the beginning. I think once teams use 360 technology or use Lean planning techniques, I just hear them say, I'm never going back to the way I used to plan work before. And so this is just another piece that fits on top of this whole process and the culture of people that you need to be successful on a job. This is by no means a replacement. It's just a better way for teams to do work. And the next section I wanted to talk about, and we're gonna actually end a little bit early to ask some questions, is about really taking this metric, the main metric in Lean, this percent plan complete, and taking it to the next level with 360 technology, and more importantly, taking it to using artificial intelligence, AI. I know that's kind of a hot buzzword in the industry, and people are like, well, AI, what is AI? How do we use it? It seems almost like a mystical thing, right? But teams are using AI today in construction, and in particular with 360 technology, teams are using this to plan work. So I mentioned an IPD team in Chicago. It's actually a joint venture. Turner is also the GC on that, but it involves a lot of trade partners. And actually, this was our drywall trade contractor, RG Construction, that brought 360 technology to the project. And not only did they bring 360 technology, but now what they brought is this ability now, because on the background, when you automate 360 technology and video, you're actually, what it's doing is it's semantically segmenting. And that's a fancy word for saying it's picking out what drywall is, what framing is, what top track is, where the mechanical, electrical outlets, and it's actually able to identify those using computer vision. That's how it establishes these very sparse point clouds that is automatically able to map to the inside of the building and the floor plan, because it's actually picking up on those construction elements and what it's seen in the 2D floor plan. So what AI is basically enabling, and this is not like a dream of the future, this is happening today, is that that you can take the images that the 360 photos are seen, you can map that against the floor plan, and I'll show you an example of it. And then you can actually pick up, and it's the AI is so accurate. I mean, imagine an experienced superintendent coming in and they can identify different, that's, framed, that's taped, that's, hung. If you can teach a person what something is by visually seeing it, you can teach AI that. And so what we've done is we basically, with some takeoffs that were initially done by the team, we're able to pick up with even more accuracy than a person, down to the percentage of drywall taped versus drywall hung, because the AI can pick up, is that a screw visible, or is it taped over, or is it just a framed with no drywall on it? And it can pick these up with incredible accuracy, and it almost automates PPC. Well, it does automate PPC, and I think that's the big revelation, is that now teams can get down to the actual percentage. We are 59% done taped with drywall on the 4th floor of this building. And how is that going to affect our schedule moving forward? How is that going to affect our look ahead of how we're going to plan work over the next 3 weeks? How is it going to affect our milestones? And when you start to unlock this productivity rate, and this tact on the job, right, of installation, because now you can start to measure the productivity of your crews with AI and with 360 technology. This is the game changer, in my opinion. This is where we start to really unlock the potential of 360 technology on a job site, coupled with AI. And this is what I'm most excited about. It's still at the very early stages, of this in the construction industry, and I know we say that a lot with AI, but it's happening today, and teams are getting real value out of this, especially teams that are aligned, like an IPD team, along risk and incentives. They want to collaborate more. They want to understand the production of the different crews, so that they can come in and be and understand, okay, are we going to hit the schedule, or are we going to be behind, and what do we need to do to correct to make sure that we're still moving with that tact? So anyway, I'm really excited about this in particular, because I've been in construction a long time, and I've seen a lot of frustration, and I've seen a lot of finger pointing, and when you and I think the theme of all of this that Chris has been saying throughout the examples that he's shared on his projects in the field, is that when you have 360 technology, it eliminates, photos and videos of full job sites eliminate a lot of the questions, right? And I think that's, I really do think this is going to become the norm moving forward. Maybe it's going to take a while for the AI piece to come into play, but I know that teams now are getting a lot of value. 360 technology is becoming mainstream. I almost think of this like the early days of lean, where people are like, what's this lean, and what's this 360 technology? But if you make it simple, if you make it easy, if you solve problems, teams don't want to go back to the way that Chris used to do it, even just 2 or 3 years ago, which is taking a bunch of photos and uploading them to the server drive and having to go back and search them later. It's really creating that extra level of communication and collaboration within the project teams. And so I'm personally excited about being a part of this, this journey for the construction industry, and making an impact in this way, and and basically allowing lean projects to better plan their work, and using 360 technology in this next phase, next jump of AI, that's kind of almost layered on top of these images that's being collected, this data and these analytics that are being taken. And I can go on and talk for hours about this, but they're starting to do some really interesting things with being able to take all this production data, actually download CSV files, upload it into a Power BI system that enables teams to then really start to measure production rates, bottom line, this is saving trades, this is saving team money if they're allowed to be more productive. So yeah, I mean, I have a quick example. I mean, the Suffolk is using 360 technology pretty widely across their company. They've got a really innovative, lab directors that also are, very, just progressive in the way that they apply technology, and they're using AI and 360 technology to basically create better estimates on, how to plan their crews, how to plan their scheduling, what they would do manually, like manually take off on a piece of paper and highlight, is now completely automated on some projects that they're leveraging this AI coupled to 360 technology. So, I'd love to open up to questions if you guys have them, and have them in the chat. I wanted to end it there. We have a fair amount of time. Feel free, you don't have to stay for the entire question and answers here, but I really wanted to have this be interactive and see if any of you had any questions about what you just saw today, or any other questions in general about 360 technology.
Well, we do have some questions and some comments that I'd like to get your feedback on. I want to remind people to put all your questions into the questions box, which is at the bottom of the long skinny box on the right-hand side of your screen. Also, now's a great time for those plus deltas, that feedback. For those of you, again, who are not familiar with the term, that missed the introduction, pluses are things that you thought added value to the presentations, and deltas are things that you think we should change so that we can add more value to the presentation. In the spirit of lean and continuous improvement, we absolutely want that feedback from you to make sure that our education is exactly what it is that you want to hear. So the first thing I want to start with is a comment that we received, and it's about 360 technology in the last planner system. The comment is, it will really help with learning and improving. It will help validate what actually got completed so we can check to see if we hit our commitments. That is going to drive the look ahead. Validating what we said was done is where we struggle right now. Now, the last part of that comment, I'm going to go to you, Tom. How do you think 360 technology can help with that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that was the great comment, and I think you summarized it really well. I don't know if I beat this over and over again in the presentation, but I think this idea of a single source of truth, right? Like, what got done. I mean, that when I was on the job, at Sutter with Bolt in Sacramento, I remember there was this joke: is it done or is it done? Right? And it was kind of a running thing with all the trades. Well, because they would be like, yeah, I'm done, kind of, but then we'd have to go out, walk out into the field. And I wasn't like Chris. I wasn't 15-minute shuttle away from the job. I luckily was co-located with everyone on the job site, where we can just take a quick 10-minute walk out, see what got done, what didn't get done. But I mean, even then, like that would take time, right? So if you could bring this up in a meeting and say, is this done? And just like Chris was saying with his examples, like verify. I think the great example of that low voltage that Chris shared was a perfect one. It really eliminates a lot of this waiting and back and forth, and addresses a few different ways.
Fantastic. Chris, did you have anything to add for that? You said you didn't necessarily use.
I'd like to add on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not using it as part of the last planner system yet, but I did like listening to Tom's presentation on AI today, and that is kind of like the observation that preceded this. A common struggle in doing weekly work planning is getting people, the last planner, to clearly define the tasks so that it can be measured. And we have that struggle on this job. I've seen that struggle on any job where we've used last planner. And so the insight for me today is that when you start dialing it in with quantifiable, measurable, PPC progress, that is going to be a feedback loop back into the definition of the task up front. So I can see artificial intelligence and the quantity reporting and its use as a PPC tool actually helping us go to work on that problem of getting the last planner to clearly define in a measurable way the task for the week ahead.
That's something else I wanted to go into. We had a couple questions come up as you were going through the presentation. You guys use a lot of acronyms that some of our attendees aren't quite familiar with this. Tom, can you explain PPC and IPD for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sorry, I just assumed these are all lean zealots like Chris and I. Yeah, PPC, plan percent complete. It's basically the metric of what got completed that week and what didn't get complete. And so it's just a task that you do during the weekly work plan, and then it measures out. You know, having 100% PPC is not necessarily a good thing. That means you're probably not pushing your crews enough, but having low PPC creates, you know, that's low reliability or reliable promises, which then creates a lot of variability in the schedule. And so having a high, accurate PPC is really good for jobs because that's what creates flow on the project. And IPD stands for Integrated Project Delivery. And basically it's a lot of these IPD teams use a contractual form, an integrated form of agreement, which basically allows all of the trade partners and all of the architect, the builder, the owner, and all of the trades to kind of participate in this idea of a shared, shared risk and reward. So that teams are all aligned, not just on the schedule and front, but on the commercial front as well. And so IPD is becoming, it's written a lot about recently. Dean Reed and Howard Ashcraft did a book about it with I think Atul Kanadzode and Martin Fisher from Stanford, and it's just getting a lot of especially integrated lean project delivery, I think is a term that's been coined recently in the last decade, ILPD. So in integrating lean principles into IPD delivery.
Fantastic. We're going to go back to AI. Is the AI in a current position where it can accurately give the amount of work completed, or is it still in a development and learning stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's doing it today with certain trades. So I know those examples that I shared with you regarding the completion of drywall scope, for example. That is up and running. Teams are using that. It is in operation, measuring PPC down to the percentage of and square footage, right, and lineal footage installed. It's doing the same thing for mechanical duct right now, and it's also counting electrical outlets. I think in the future, what it's going to do is as more images get indexed, and as we teach the machine learning algorithms what different construction elements are. There's finishes, concrete is being worked on right now, installation of steel. So being able to measure like production rates of steel installation and pouring of concrete, and then flooring and finishes, and then eventually, I think in the near future, it's being in beta right now, it's being tested, but being able to measure conduit, an MEP conduit as well. So I mean, this is really exciting, but it's going to continue to develop and continue to get better. AI is still fairly new in construction. It's been around for a while, but I think with a lot of the computing power and a lot of the exciting things that companies are doing these days, I think you're going to see a rapid acceleration in the use of AI over the next 5 to 10 years in construction.
All right. Our next question, and I expect both of you to have an answer to this one. What would be the next step after this webinar regarding implementation on a job that doesn't use 360 photos at this time? Chris, did you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I think Chris, go ahead. It's a little bit of a delay on your end.
I'll go ahead, and for me, yep, I'll take that. Dang delay. Yeah, so I think the next step is to do your research, look at the options that are out there, understand what you want to do. For me, it was I put an A3 together. we needed to understand internally with the Turner Flatiron joint venture what we wanted to do, and then we needed to sell that to the owner. And so the A3 was a vehicle choice for me to do that. And I don't know if my contact info is there, but if you're interested, get a hold of me and I'll share with you what I've done. So I would say research what it is you want to do, and then put a plan together to implement it. Again, you know, the key is route and cadence. So how are you going to do that? I had a great fear when we were putting this together that we would go procure this thing, and then, you know, 6 months later, cameras would be on the shelf gathering dust, and we wouldn't have used this. We've been at this for a year and a half and have been doing captures consistently over that time. So route and cadence and having a plan to do that is the key. So do your research, put a plan together to achieve route and cadence, and then let the thing unfold. That's my answer.
Tom, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Chris hit it on. That's a great way. I think the biggest thing, and I used to say this where projects are like, well, how do we get started with lean? And my answer was always just do it. So like, I guess, you know, to simplify it, like just go out and buy a 360 camera. You can buy them off the shelf at Amazon, off of Insta360, off of Ricoh. And go and start taking 360 photos. You know, there's, you know, not to, it's not a commercial or anything, but you can even get started with OpenSpace for free. And like, that's a simple way for you guys to get started. You know, platforms are better than just taking a bunch of 360 photos and trying to organize them. So, you know, OS Basic is a great way to get started.
Fantastic. Our next question, it might be for Chris. Please describe who typically does the 360 technology walks. Where is the information stored? Who has access to the information? And where is the information archived following the project?
Good question. And this was another thing that I learned doing my research. You would think maybe the intuitive answer would be the superintendent. And I heard over and over again, and it is true, not the superintendent, because what happens when the superintendent walks, they get mauled by dozens of people when they're trying to go from point A to point B, you know, to communicate, coordinate. So in our case, we've had a variety of folks do it. Typically, it is an engineer, or right now, one of our admins is doing it and doing it religiously. She gets the Zen walk, and therefore will do it religiously. But typically, it's somebody that won't get waylaid as they're walking through the project. And so that is who does it. Where it is stored, it uploads to the cloud, and so you can access it. I can access it from my phone, from my house, or you know, from Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge from my computer. And so it's just a matter of getting the app and accessing it through one of those sources. I think, and Tom might be able to answer this question better, but I know I've gotten questions from the owner. What about when the project is complete? How do we make sure that we've got access to this archivally? And I know typically each of these platforms has a way to ensure that you've got access to this information once the project's complete. And I'll let Tom pick up that piece of the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So basically, you know, like Chris said, you know, all of this information is viewable in read-only format in the cloud, so that information will never go away. We say we give access for 10 years after the project as part of our platform, just because that meets the liability and the claims window for in case any issues happen. But as well, we also provide an offline deliverable for the team. So all of the images, all of the photos, all of that, you know, that belongs to the project, just like the drawings do. And so, you know, we provide that in an offline format, maybe not as nifty as the platform itself, where you can do split screen and bring up the model, but it'll allow teams to at least take this information offline and have it in case the internet blows up or something.
Fantastic. I want to let everyone know if you have very detailed questions about OpenSpace, please contact Tom directly. You can see his contact information on the screen. I know his email is a little difficult to read because it's blue on blue, but it's Tom F as in Valise at openspace.ai. So you can contact him directly to get any detailed information about OpenSpace itself. We're going to go back to AI, Tom. And this is a different, another portion of the question that was asked earlier. And this person says, additionally, I work for a subcontractor that does interior systems. I quantify the amount of work being completed on a weekly basis for all projects. Can we expect the AI or software to have the ability to break down the amount of work in other metrics, such as square or lineal footages?
Yeah, that's what, I mean, I don't know what trade that person is that asked that question. I mean, if you could share with me, that would be helpful. Put it in the chat. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what AI technology is doing today. So we're able to measure lineal feet of ductwork, mechanical ductwork. We're able to measure lineal feet of framing put in place, or square footage of drywall that's been hung or taped. And we can calculate those metrics. The way we do that on the front end is we do need to do like an actual takeoff of the building. So you need to tell us initially, like, okay, there is 5,642 lineal feet of duct on this floor. And so then we'll do almost like an on-screen takeoff calculation of that, and then we'll tell the AI, look for this duct, it's in these areas. So we use like a mechanical plan to do that. And for the flooring, or sorry, for the drywall, we do the same thing. We look, get a 100% CD set, and we get the PDF floor plans, and we basically do a takeoff of all of the drywall. And then the AI will then look for that drywall, whether it's there or where it's not there. And that's what you're seeing here, color coded on the screen. Is and if you guys can still see my screen, yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so that's how AI is being implemented. Like I said, it's still the early phases of AI. I think we're going to start to see more and more construction elements. But the one thing I will say is, if you can train a human to see something, you can train AI to do the same thing. So as long as it's visible and it can be seen and distinguished, then you can train computers to do the same thing.
I wanted to let you know, Tom, that the answer to your which trade is, this person said carpenters, painters, and finishers.
Gotcha. Yeah, finishes, our company in particular is working on finishes, the finishing trades now. So like cabinetry finishes, things like that. Being able to pick up painting, it's something that is not available today. But like it's gonna be hard to maybe pick up a level 5 finish, versus just something that's been painted. Unless the 360 hardware gets a little bit better, it'd be tough to see that from a screen with the computer vision. But but the rest of the carpentry work, if it's visible by the naked eye, on a screen, then we can do it. But appreciate that, Eileen. Hopefully that was somewhat of a okay answer.
I think that was a fantastic answer. I want to remind everybody to go ahead and put those plus deltas into the questions box. We want to go ahead and get that feedback so we can make our presentations exactly what it is that you want to hear. Our next question is for Tom. And I know, Tom, I know you get this question about lean a lot, but how would you get buy-in from your team to use 360 technology?
Yeah, I mean, well, Chris can take this on the actual builder's side. I've been on both sides now. So since 2012, I basically made the transition over to the technology side, meaning that, I'm constantly selling the value of technology in construction, right? Like why it's going to make your job better, why it's going to, improve your workflows. I think the biggest thing when it comes down to any sort of technology adoption is that one, you got to make sure that people like it and they will use it, right? So I think coming back to the point that, is it simple? Is it easy? Or is it gonna, frustrate that baby boomer that Chris was talking about? Like, and just, I've seen that, in the early days of tech, like even when introducing PlanGrid to job sites, when I was a project engineer, and that's a simple and fast, easy technology to use. And superintendents are like, what's this? But once they see the value in it, and once they see, oh my gosh, this is saving me 10 hours a week in documenting the job site, in having to take a bunch of photos and upload them and organize them in folders, and then I have to go search for them later. I think that's where 360 technology really, the light bulb goes on, and all those examples that Chris brought up of, hey, there's an actual tangible ROI to this. And I think when you're vetting any sort of technology, I think, go out, try it, use it, build that. I mean, just like any sort of validation of introducing something new. Does it work? Let's measure, the savings here in terms of time, in terms of rework, in terms of, excuse me, collaboration and communication, which is a little bit harder to quantify. But, you can have these examples and these aha moments that Chris has had on his projects. And I think those examples and other people that have used this before, like tapping into those champions within your organization, those, who they are. They're in every organization. These people that are just the technology nerds, so to speak, that are like, hey, look I'm doing this something different. Even that VDC guy on the job who's just a problem solver that Chris was talking about. I think, those are the people within the organization. And maybe it's you on this call. Chances are, if you're on this call, you're probably, interested in technology and wanting to bring it to teams. But I would just say, like, start small, build it out on a small project, use it, get some success stories, show the ROI, and then hopefully you're off to the races. You get the right people saying yes, and showing that value to them, especially some of these executives that at these construction companies and owners tend to be, baby boomers like Chris. And so they didn't grow up in an era of having smartphones and technology, right? Whereas the new class that is coming into construction, I mean, they were born with an iPhone in their hand, right? And so this is second nature to them. So tapping those advocates and those champions within the organization, and I don't want to be ageist or anything, because it can come from anywhere, but these younger people that have more apt to technology, like I would say, you are the emerging leaders of this industry, right? You are the ones that are going to affect this big productivity gap and problem gap. You be a leader, step up and bring this technology to your teams. So anyways, Chris, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but.
Yes, I do, and I love that I can be ageist and get away with it and kind of crack on boomers. So I got that in court. So yeah, my approach, this will, I think, be reinforcing what I said earlier, but it's route and cadence. So if I keep the deliverables out there, it's kind of like putting corn in a deer feeder, then they'll come, and the Adams of the world will, the BIM guy will find it and find its uses. Some of the other things that I do when I get a positive feedback rep or from the architect, I make sure to share that liberally with project leadership and those that might have use for this. And then, as an example, yesterday we were working through this slide deck, and the automation of percent plan complete. I took a screenshot of that, sent it to the superintendent lead, to the lead superintendent, and so I see part of this is preparing minds, kind of exciting them about the why and the future of this, and so I think it's all those things. The example that I found last week with Adam, using it in BIM VDC duties, I will be sure to reflect that back to our project staff, our 80 folks on staff here in a town hall, and say, look, this guy's using this 2 or 3 times a week. And so just kind of holding up the mirror when somebody uses it for good purpose, hold a mirror up to that so that everybody can see. End of answer.
Fantastic. You guys gave fantastic answers. Thank you so much. I want to remind people to put those plus deltas into the questions box. I was mistaken earlier. I do want to remind people that this presentation is, of course, being recorded, but a copy of the recording and the slide deck will be sent to you personally by me by close of business, I do believe, tomorrow. So watch out, watch your inbox for that, and they'll be sent to you personally by me by close of business tomorrow. So you'll have those in your inbox. Our next question, Tom, I'm gonna send this one over to you. What do you think is in the future of 360 technology?
That was my last few slides here. But like I said, I can talk about this for hours. But yep. I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. But basically, it's all about what we're doing with this information, right? Because in a way, I think that 360 technology is going to become a commodity, right? Like it's going to be a standard, right? All projects are going to use 360 technology in the future. It's just the advantages over regular photo documentation are just, and I'm not saying it's going to completely replace regular photo documentation. I think there's still a need for just regular photos, whether that you attach them to an RFI or you attach them to an issue that you need to then have someone take care of. But 360 technology, I think the power of it and the future of it all comes down to what you can do with this data, what you can do with this information, how you can get insights from it, right? There's a company called Numetrics that's taking all of these just photos and they are analyzing them and putting them through their computer vision algorithm and finding safety issues on the job site. I mean, these are the things, that are exciting to me too, because then you can make sure that people are getting home to their families safer and at nights, because the AI is finding potential hazards or near misses before humans can see them. Where is that? Does it have the proper barricades or protection, fall protection, and things like that? I mean, you can find this using AI, and I think when you make the capture of data so easy, and when it's so where it's everywhere, right? Where you're capturing a job site every single day and it's snapping a photo every half of a second. I mean, we've captured billions and billions of images in a short period of time here, and now it's only going to be exponentially growing. And so, as you start to gather more of those images, you can start to get some really exciting insights from them on what you can do with that data and how you can use it, especially with the automation of production planning. Game changer, in my opinion. So, sorry, there's a little bit of feedback.
That's okay. I have a question for each of you.
Okay.
We're going to start with you, Chris. What is the one thing that you think people should gain from this webinar to take home with them?
It's a no-brainer, and really this is kind of what Tom was just saying. It is the future, and you're throwing money away. Think back to the 8 wastes and all the waste that we're attacking when we use this technology. And again, I think of like the waiting waste. We have a big problem on this project with time delay of information transfer and achieving consensus on issues and moving forward. This really attacks that waste of waiting, and of course the time and motion. So the one thing is it's a no-brainer.
Tom, same question to you.
Yeah, I would say if the one thing is just do it, just get started. Buy a 360 camera and get going on the job sites and show people, as opposed to talking about it. And I said I give the same advice about getting started with lean. But yeah, there was a lot to cover. There's a lot of nuggets in here, and I loved all the stories from from Chris today, because it just shows you the power of 360 technology and how it addresses all of the wastes and creates better flow.
So we have a comment here about how 360 technology helps go to Gemba. And I'm going to ask you to explain that term and then ask what you think of that.
Yeah, I actually had that in the presentation and Chris told me to take it out. Just because, I mean, so for people that don't know what Gemba is, it's taken from the Japanese lean manufacturing, which is go to the place, right? Go to the place of where the work is occurring, is how I used it in lean construction. And so basically, what we do with 360 technology that's in the cloud is we create the Gemba for everyone, right? You don't, the way I worked on lean projects, when we would go to the Gemba, the only way we can do it is to actually get up and physically walk out to the job site and go to the Gemba, right? Go to the place where the work is occurring. But, you know, in the example that Chris shared with like the architect being in LA and the, you know, the owner being in another spot, like they can't get on a plane and go to the Gemba. It's just not easy, right? Like that. And so with 360 technology that's cloud-based, you're basically creating a Gemba, you know, from the beach in Hawaii if you wanted to, which is just, it accelerates the, you know, the collaboration, communication, and all of that. You know, and now with living in a world where we don't have the luxury of being co-located, and maybe it'll change with, you know, COVID and everything, but a lot of teams unfortunately are dispersed. And so you can't get on a plane, or would you want to, right? You can save all that extra time of getting on a plane by just, you know, bringing up a Teams meeting, doing a quick screen share of what's going on and doing a virtual walkthrough of the site. So the Gemba is everywhere now. You can access it at your fingertip and with an internet connection.
So my answer will be a little bit different. And so I did discourage using the phrase Gemba in the presentation. And I would say there is no substitute for going to the place where things are happening. However, this augments that, and you saw plenty of examples where we could achieve consensus where we would otherwise not. And so there is no substitute for going to where the work is happening and talking to the people directly and seeing with your own eyes and feeling it. However, this just augments that in a way that is so powerful, particularly when we're dispersed, particularly when there's pandemics. And so it no substitute for the Gemba, but it augments it in very powerful ways. End of answer.
Fantastic. Tom, if you'll head back to your contact slide, so people have this in the last couple seconds of the webinar. We are out of questions, so we're going to go ahead and end a little bit early. Tom, any closing thoughts? Chris, any closing thoughts?
No, I just really appreciate always speaking to this, you know, the LCI, and really, you know, really excited that, you know, our company is a sponsor. We really, I believe personally, and we believe that this is the way that the project is getting built. So I really appreciate Eileen and the entire Lean Construction Institute for allowing this venue for us.
Chris, any closing thoughts?
Really just that it's stuff like this that makes it fun to be in an industry that is otherwise tough and challenging at times. So this is fun, and this presentation has been fun, and thanks for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Well, we were really glad to have OpenSpace and Turner present for us today. Thank you so much for attending. Again, this was recorded, and a copy of the recording and the slide deck will be sent to you guys by close of business tomorrow. Thank you so much for your wonderful feedback. We hope to see you guys on our exhibitor webinar series, which will be happening tomorrow through October 8th. Thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everyone.